Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. This video is to give you an update on how things have been going with me for the last week. I've been living in Japan now for 1 week. I moved here to study Japanese at a school in Shinjuku, and I'm currently living at a share house, Social Residence Kichijoji in Musashino. And I actually have put together a walkthrough video of my room and the share house that I'm currently living in, which will come at the end of the video. I'm just going to start with an update on how things are going for me and what the trip over here was like. So I left on the 19th to come to Japan, and my flights over here were really great. It's pretty straightforward to get to Japan from the West Coast. And in the process of coming over here, one of the things I had to set up was a move-in appointment to get moved into the share house that I'm living in right now. And so I scheduled it about 3 hours after I was supposed to land, thinking that that would be enough time for me to get to the appointment and get moved in. And I was definitely wrong. So some craziness ensued. After I landed in Tokyo, I filled out my documentation. I had everything I needed to present to the people who process your visa applications when you get here and turn them into residency cards, which I have. I'm not going to show. And when I got to Narita, I was actually directed to the wrong place, spent a little bit of time in the wrong line, and then was redirected to the proper line. And I ended up being there for like the better part of 45 minutes more. It was about an hour and a half now. And then we got processed through a special line. And so they have some questions for you. They read your documentation. And then, like I said before, they issue your residency card. So that took me a lot longer than I thought. And as I'm waiting in line, I'm actually texting or emailing the person I'm supposed to have the appointment with, and I'm realizing as I'm sitting in the airport something that's different than when I visited Japan last year is my cell service is absolutely terrible, and so my email's not really refreshing. I'm not getting a great signal, so I'm starting to get really nervous before I even make it through customs that I'm not going to make it to my appointment. So I get through customs, I've got all this documentation, and you head downstairs from customs to where the baggage is. And as I'm grabbing my bags and I'm putting this documentation in the backpack on my back, I'm like, where's my laptop? I had forgotten my laptop on the airplane, and I realized, oh no, it's in the back of the chair in the airplane. So I quickly flagged somebody down from Delta. I was able to tell them my flight number, what seat I was sitting in, and surprisingly, within about 25 minutes, they were able to get my laptop back to me. I was so thankful. Thank you, Delta. But that was an additional like half an hour of time I really didn't have, and it was starting to look like I'm not going to make it to my appointment. I'm, keeping the person updated. And by the time I get my laptop back, what had been just a couple of people in the next customs line, which is the bag inspection, if you have anything to declare, if you brought any goods or things that are not allowed into the country, this is the line I'm going into. And I don't know if the officer who was taking my application didn't give me back my document, because I remember having it and filling it out, or if I dropped it somewhere along the way. But I'm in this line and I'm realizing everybody has a piece of paper that I don't have, and I'm like, where is that paper? And I'm looking through my backpack and I don't have it. And I was just like halfway through the line. So I have to get out of line, I have to go fill out that. And by this point, the lines are even longer now. There's like 30 people. So it's like another half an hour at least, before I get up to the line. And so I'm already to my appointment time. I'm still at the airport. And they're like, we can basically wait until an hour and a half after that, but then they have another appointment they have to go to. So all clear thinking and focus on the things I needed to do in the airport before I left totally go out the window. I don't realize I have no money in my wallet. I don't realize that I didn't get a SIM card like I thought I was going to get, which would have been very useful because my cell phone's not working very well. And I'm trying to rush through the airport, which is very difficult when you've got everything that you have in life with you. I've got a 70-pound bag. I've got another 50 pounds. I've got 50 pounds on my back and a large rucksack. And then I've got like this hard case that's carrying my gimbal and some of my camera equipment. And I look like a fool, like trying to make it through the airport, because in the airport, there are these wonderful things that go through the airport that help those who are visually impaired be able to make their way through the airport, but also out through Japan. It's great that they have them, but it made it difficult for me to move my stuff through the airport. And I quickly go downstairs. I get a Skyliner ticket, which is basically a high-speed train that takes you from Narita to Nippori Station, which is where you can transfer to all the local metro and Japan Rail trains. And so I'm sitting there waiting, and I get a message from the house basically saying, it's going to actually be we can't wait quite as long as we thought. And so now I'm really starting to freak out because it's saying I'm going to arrive basically 5 minutes before that time that they can wait for me. And so there's like no margin for error at this point. And those things that I forgot that I mentioned earlier, I'm on the Skyliner. I'm about a quarter of the way to Nippori Station, and it hits me that I have no cash, which is a problem because when I came to Japan the last time in September of last year, we got to Nippori Station, and at that time, I don't know if we got bad information or what, but there were no ATMs anywhere in the part of the station that we could access. And so they told us we had to go outside to a 7-Eleven where we could get cash. And all I'm thinking is, how in God's name am I going to be able to take all of this stuff, my entire life? I'm barely able to function in very smoothly paved airports, out onto the streets. And so I'm panicking, and instead of taking video of this very picturesque ride through the Japanese countryside, because the ride from Narita into Tokyo is actually very nice. There's a lot of traditional Japanese homes and agricultural areas and rivers and cityscapes. It's beautiful, and I'm getting no video whatsoever. I'm just like freaking out thinking, how am I going to solve this? So I get to Nippori Station, and I ask an attendant like where an ATM is, and they tell me in Japanese where it is. So I start looking for it. I can't find it. I ask another attendant. They tell me something else. And then I get closer to that area, and I ask another attendant, and they confirm where it is, and I can find it. And I'm thinking, oh God, I got money. So I'm able to get money, and the reason that's important is because you can't buy metro or train tickets in Japan with a credit card. It has to be cash. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have to have cash. So you can imagine, if I don't have cash, I don't have a train ticket, I don't have a way to get to the house. So that is basically reassuring to me, and I'm able to calm down a little bit, except you may remember I said I had about 5 minutes of wiggle room. Well, I spend pretty much all of that trying to get a train ticket. So I rush over, and I buy my train ticket, and then I head over to the Yamanote line, and I'm able to get up to the platform with about a minute to spare. I get on that train, and what I'm starting to realize is that I've arrived in Japan, and I'm basically traveling the train system at rush hour, which, if you don't know what it looks like to ride on a train at rush hour in Tokyo, I'll link something down in the description to give you a sense of what that looks like. It's insanity. So anyways, I get on the train. I head down to Shinjuku Station, which is the world's busiest train station. There are millions of people, and it's rush hour. And I'm trying to move through the station with all of my stuff. And when I get to the platform that I'm supposed to take for the Chuo line, I'm looking around, and there's no escalators. There are no elevators. I don't have a way to get up to this platform unless I hulk it with all of my stuff up this long flight of stairs. And I'm like looking at my watch. I literally have 45 seconds to get to the platform before the train gets there. So with every ounce of strength in this not in shape or strong body, I hulk all of my stuff up there, and like people are just looking at me like, what is wrong with this person? And I'm getting up there, and I make it. The train arrives about 10 seconds later, and tons of people flood off, and I'm able to get on the train. And I'm like, ooh, rush hour is not too bad today. Yeah, I was wrong. Within 2 stations, the entire train was completely compacted. People everywhere touching on the side of me, and I had to be everybody's most unpopular person because I'm taking up all of this space with my bags on my back, in front of me, on the side. It was a mess. And so I'm looking at my watch, and I'm going to arrive probably 2 minutes after they said that they're going to be able to wait for me, but my phone's not getting any messages. I've tried to send some, they haven't sent out. I get to the station, I run downstairs to the meeting spot, and within about 5 minutes I get an email that said, we had to leave and go someplace else. Here's an email that tells you how to get moved in all by yourself. And I was like, ugh, this is terrible. I don't actually know the address of the house yet, so I'm putting it into Google. And as you can imagine, I can't even send emails. So it took me about half an hour wandering around, trying to get enough cell service to be able to get it to pull up. It finally does, and it's about a 1 mile walk with all of this stuff. And I'm beside myself because the pavement is really sort of gravelly, bumpy. It's nice. It's not bad. It's uneven in a way that makes it difficult for roller bags to move. And so I'm having to lug around like the full weight of these bags, and they're hitting my feet, and then they're bumping and they're getting turned around. Let's just say that what should have been a 15-minute walk with nothing on my back took me about an hour, and I was just hating life. I finally get here, and of course, I've never been here before. I don't know how this place is laid out. Trying to follow some directions, trying to figure out how everything's marked. And it takes me about 15 minutes to figure out where I am and where to go. Nobody is around. And so finally I find my room. I'm able to get in, put my stuff down, and I just collapse on my bed. I check the internet. I get all connected, unpack a few things, get out of my clothes, and go to sleep. And when I woke up in the morning, I just was like totally relieved and happy to be here. Because despite all the craziness, it was like, I'm finally here. Like 2 years of preparation and 2 years of waiting and getting all of this stuff ready, like finally came to fruition. And I was like so happy. Like it was hard to put into words how good I felt. And over the next week, within actually a couple of days, I made several friends who I've been hanging out with, and it's a very multicultural place that I'm living in at the share house. So there's about 56 people who live in this complex. We all have our own rooms. About half the people who live here are Japanese. The other half are from around the globe. So there are people here from China and Taiwan and South Africa, Spain, France, America. It's really amazing, and it's crazy how many different languages people speak here, how good the English is among people who are foreigners from like Europe and different parts of Central America and things like that. It's pretty amazing. And it's been really fun. There's so much in this area in Kichijoji that's all within walking distance. It's been voted the #1 place Japanese people would like to live, so it's a really, really nice area. And in the first week, the immigration here is pretty strict, and so I had to go to what's called the local city office or the local ward office, and I had to bring my residency card, my passport, all of my information. I had to register with the city, tell them where I'm living, give them my address, and then I had to also fill out documents to become a part of the national healthcare system. In Japan, healthcare is 100% nationalized. It is not optional. Everybody is in. And so when you come to this country, you have to register to be a part of not only insurance, but a part of the city as well. And so I went through that process. Thankfully, they had an interpreter there who was able to help me, who was very nice. And I just spent basically the next week just kind of getting familiar with my neighborhood, going shopping, and seeing the area. And all throughout the process, I've just felt nothing but happiness to be here and confidence and good things about the decisions that I made that allowed me to come here. Next week, school starts, and next week I'm off of holiday, so I'll be working again. And I'll be working from 5 a.m. in the morning until 10 a.m. in the morning for my company in Los Angeles. And then I'll be going to school from about 12:15 to 4:30 in the afternoon. So my days are going to be really busy moving forward, but it's been a great week so far of just kind of getting settled and everything else. And I'm really, really happy to be here. So there are 3 things that were really surprising to me after I got moved in here. So the first thing that was very surprising was that the Japanese are very, very serious about their garbage. Like, it's impressive and at the same time a little bit intimidating. So they separate all of their garbage and all of their recycling into burnable trash and non-burnable trash. They separate all of the bottles, all of the cans, all of the glass. Food waste is separated into its own, separate from things like milk containers. They also have a separate pickup specifically for broken down cardboard. So if you have like anything that qualifies as like cardboard, you have to break it down and then you have to tie it. And all of the garbage, burnable and non-burnable garbage, are put into these special green bags. And there's a slip that you have to fill out with your information so they can identify who put the garbage out. I don't know if that's because of the community that I'm in or if that's just a citywide thing. I think it's citywide. And these bags you can buy from local convenience stores and supermarkets, but your garbage has to be in these bags. And it has to be separated out a specific way. And somebody does at least a brief general inspection of what's in the bag to make sure there's not something in there that shouldn't be. And if there is something in there that shouldn't be, they'll leave it behind. And it's up to you to make sure that your garbage didn't get left behind, and it's up to you to figure out if something was left and why it was left. So we recycle in the United States, but in the city that I live in, all of the garbage goes into one container and it actually gets sorted at the dump by people who work there rather than us sorting it. So it's really different. Like, we definitely recycle, we definitely have sorted garbage, but it's not done by us. So that was a little bit of an adjustment to sort of figure out like what pieces of stuff that you bought need to be separated and put into different garbage. So that was the first thing. The second thing that was surprising, though I've heard about this, but it's now actually affecting me in some way, is how long and how late people work here. So I can't really hang out with anybody who has a job here in Japan until like after 8 o'clock. Like, everybody here who works is out the door by or before 8, and they don't get back until at least 8. And that's really different than what I've been used to. Like, in the US, go to work sometime between 8 and 9, depending on the job, and get off sometime between 5 and 6:30. Never home any later than that unless I'm out spending time with people. But like, the work culture here is intense, and the expectation of staying late at work, even if you don't have work, is a real thing here. Like, you go home when your managers go home or when they dismiss you. It's sort of expected that if your manager isn't done working, then you couldn't possibly be done working either. It's very common. Like, most people here have said they stay at work much longer than makes sense, and they don't get paid for it either. Like, in their contracts, it's written that you get paid for this amount of time, including and up to like 40 plus hours of additional work beyond your 40-hour work week. Like, one of the girls who works here, her contract says she has a 40-hour work week expectation, and her salary covers those 40 hours plus 40 additional hours per month that might be worked as needed, which is insane. Like, to me, that's craziness. So it's not really in line with how things work in the US, where if you exceed certain daily or weekly or monthly quotas for work, you get paid for it, where here you don't. And there's so much expected work time. So anyways, all of my friends get home really late, which could be problematic because I need to go to bed at an earlier hour to be up to work at 5. So it'll be interesting to work through that. The last thing is how expensive food is. Okay, so food is insanely expensive, and let me couch this by saying I haven't shopped around a ton. I've just been to 2 local supermarkets, and I've been told they're not the cheapest. There's definitely cheaper places. But in general, meat is extremely expensive. Like, imagine the cheapest chicken you can find is like $6 a pound minimum. Beef, expensive. Pork can be expensive. And fish, it can be expensive. You can buy it like completely head to tail, but you got to clean it yourself, and that tends to be cheaper. I don't know how to do that. So meat for me has been really expensive. The next thing that's expensive, surprisingly, is Japanese rice. Japanese rice is very expensive. You can buy other types of rice, like rice from China or different places throughout the world, and it's a little cheaper, but I was surprised. I was thinking rice was going to be really inexpensive here, and it's not. The other thing that's very expensive is medicine, things like Tylenol or ibuprofen. Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, it's like 10 times as expensive. It's crazy. And there's other produce like fruits. Like, I was at the store the other day, and like a handful of grapes, like a snack size amount of grapes, is like $6. Like, $6 can buy an absurd amount of grapes in California. Like more grapes than you could probably reasonably eat unless you love grapes. But like most fruit is really expensive. Most green produce is fairly inexpensive. Milk, pretty inexpensive. Eggs, pretty inexpensive. Beer, very inexpensive. So there are definitely things like tofu and green produce and things like that that are inexpensive. But in general, my food bill is definitely going to probably be 50% higher than it was when I was living in California. So that extra expense is definitely going to be something to get used to. But all in all, I'm really happy to be here. It's been a great first week, and I can't wait for school to start. I can't wait to continue to get to know the people I live with more, explore more of Tokyo. There's so much more to see, and I'll be continuing to make these videos. The next video that I've got for you is a walkthrough of the place that I'm living. I've put together a video of that. It's a walkthrough of the building and living here, and I might even show some of the area. So anyways, stay tuned. Subscribe to get updates when I put out new videos. Give me a like to let me know that you liked it. And if you have a comment, leave it down below. I'm interested to know what you think of my first week here in Japan, and if any of the things that I mentioned surprise you as well. All right, see you in the next video. Bye.